I don't want to set the world on fire. I just want to start a flame in your heart.
In war, it is not necessarily the money that is the issue, but the lives that it affects negatively. On December 7th, 1941, Japan attacked America at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. With a declaration of war from the Japanese, Americans were scared of the Japanese and the U.S. being affiliated with the Japanese in the homeland and bringing war to the U.S. FDR issued Executive Order 9066, which forced Japanese Americans to relocate from their homes to internment camps for no reason other than they were Japanese at a time of turmoil between America and the Japanese military.
That's all we know. But yeah, life at the camp probably wasn't very pleasant for a lot of people, but one of the things that was said around the camp amongst the Japanese people were it's shikatanai, which means it's something that couldn't be helped. You couldn't do anything about it. So we had to live there, and we had to live there, and get along with what we had to do. That was about it.
Yeah.
The time frame.
You
Somewhere in there.
you remember which camp you were taken to?
My parents never talked about that because it's something that was, a dark spot in their body. They didn't want to tell the kids what happened.
When all this was happening, what did they tell you?
Nothing. It was like, people moved to a different location, stuff like that. But again, I'm the oldest in the family, and I have two other brothers. So we don't know too much about what went on there. Like I said, my parents never talked to us about it because they wanted to hide the frustrations and their feelings. There's racial, feelings amongst people, and originally that's the reason why we were all sent there.
Yeah.
And so it's passed on to the kids, right? So, yeah, I had some dealings with that, but.
So would you say they saw you differently from them? They saw you differently from them?
Well, they would call us jabs and stuff like that. So we were never told not to fight back. So we just kind of took it and went on from there.
The atom bomb was dropped on the city of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, about 4 years after Pearl Harbor. Although Japanese forces waned, their confidence did not, and this was reason enough to drop the bomb on Hiroshima in an attempt to scare them into submission. This scare tactic took the lives of thousands of innocent men, women, and children who had no connection to the war and left the survivors scared for their life, mentally and physically. When U.S. soil is being attacked, it is our responsibility to act. On September 11, 2001, a tragedy happened perpetrated by Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is a terrorist group who has been around since 1988 and has terrorized many in the Middle East. Al-Qaeda is and has based out of Afghanistan. Their leader at the time, Osama bin Laden, which was the perpetrator of the September 11th attacks. In response to bin Laden's actions, America's President George W. Bush acted swiftly and authorized Operation Enduring Freedom to put an end to terror. He stated, on September 11th, 2001, America felt its vulnerability, even to threats that gather on the other side of the earth. We resolved then, and we are resolved today, to confront every threat from any source that could bring sudden terror and suffering to America. With his response, he sent troops to Afghanistan, which is the home of the Al-Qaeda, all to stop the terror from spreading in the Middle East to America again. Afghanistan from 2001 to 2015 has taken 3,487 U.S. soldiers' lives. Just remember, these veterans fought to protect freedom at the cost of their lives, all because war makes people make irrational decisions, such as killing each other. Besides American lives, many civilians were affected by the war. In total, there has been at least 21,000 dead Afghanistan citizens. To this day, we are still in Afghanistan, and not much has changed.
It's a lot. It's, besides the, easier to count dollar amounts and body counts that are a lot easier to tally and calculate, there's lots of other things that are really hard to keep track of, like how it affects the individual service members, whether or not they were physically injured. A lot of these guys come back mentally really wounded and very different from before they were in the service, and how it affects their friends, their family members, their loved ones. It expands a lot, and then even to people who've maybe never even met or known or whatever a service member in their entire lives. War affects entire nations, the whole planet. There's not a lot of people who go really untouched completely by war. There are definitely people who feel it way more than others. And it even includes, people who never wanted to have anything to do with it. Like there's, it's really terrible and unfortunate, but there's so many civilians in Afghanistan who I know we affected negatively, as a part of just our combat operations, and whether or not it was us specifically or if it was during some combat operation, it was, almost always, with, some unfortunate exceptions, almost always unintentional things that we try really hard to avoid, but it's, it's almost impossible to calculate, to me anyway, the cost of war and who it affects. I've always hated bullies my entire life, and there's bullies all over the world. It's not just bullies in schools, not that that's unimportant, but there are bullies all over the world that do a lot worse than call people names and push people in the gravel. There are bullies who starve people, who rape, torture, beat, all sorts of terrible, awful things that happen all over the world. And I like the fact that we can and sometimes do stand up to those bullies.
World War II, 420,000 dead. Afghanistan, over 25,000 dead. War takes the lives of men, women, and children. It leaves many scared due to the decisions people make, such as dropping a bomb on innocent civilians, or accidentally carpet bombing an Afghanistan school bus.